Okay, hi folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee. Today, I'm really excited to be talking to a trio of inspiring guests around the power of mentoring and how it changed one young person's life. I'll be speaking to Darren Lewitt, Skeet and Cole Guy around the Volunteering Matters Grand Mentor project and learning a little bit more about what it takes to be a great mentor and the outcomes for a fantastic mentee. So all of them are going to join me now to speak a little bit more about mentoring. Afternoon, folks. How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Sunshine and can't complain. So today we're going to talk obviously a lot more about mentoring and the award-winning Grand Mentors project that is through Stephen's organisation at Volunteering Matters. But to kick off with, how's it going in lockdown? Are you all coping, keeping sane? And have you all got coffee or drinks at hand as well? Most important question.
Yeah, I got a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a coffee too. Okay in lockdown, lucky to have a garden space, which makes things a little bit easier. Work is very busy because obviously volunteering is incredibly important right now. And we're doing lots of it. So it's a challenging time in many ways, but quite a vibrant time. And we're doing well, just trying to be disciplined around still kind of exercising and get away from the screen as much as I can.
Yeah. No, I think that's sound advice. And Cole, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, it's good. I'm honing some hobbies and stuff and trying to keep myself occupied and stuff. So just trying to be as productive as I can throughout it. So
that's what we like to hear. And I think, just trying to keep your mind active during lockdown, the amount of times when, trying to pick up new hobbies, reading books, new skills, those sorts of things, I think that's so important at the moment.
Yeah,
and maybe, and sort of coming away from lockdown, hopefully learning something from this. Well, it feels like a living nightmare at the minute. But we'll move on from that. But what I really want to talk about, how do you all know each other? So Darren, why don't you kick off with that?
Okay, so I spent about 25 years in business, and once I'd decided that I'd taken the company I was in to where I wanted to take it, I decided that I wanted to leave and do something different. I wanted another adventure in my life, and I wanted to volunteer my services and become a mentor. And I met up at a coffee morning, a breakfast, with one of Stephen's generals, if you like, a lady called Dion. And she persuaded myself and a handful of other guys to become a mentor and take part in this Grand Mentors program. So that's what I decided to do. And I got matched with Cole about 3 years ago. And Cole and myself, we embarked on a journey that took us from Cole being, very anxious as a young lad to then becoming, in 3 years down the line, the young Suffolk Young Person of the Year. So it's been an epic journey, and along the way, Volunteering Matters also won a national mentoring award, and that's down to obviously everybody that's involved. So it's been a great journey.
Fantastic. And Stephen, can you tell us a little bit more about Volunteering Matters, what you folks do, and a little bit more about the Grand Mentor project as well?
Sure. So Grand Mentors is a program which matches people from local communities over the age of 50 to young people that are leaving the care system in that particular town. And we have obviously one of those programs in Ipswich, which we run in partnership with Suffolk County Council. The premise of the program, as Darren's kind of outlined really, is that essentially how do we get people who have a little bit of time, lots of experience and wisdom, and want to give something back into the local community, how do we feed that back into young people who could really do with that kind of help as they move into adulthood? And I think as a principle, when you look at young people that may have been in the care system or care experienced, the outcomes for those young people are often not great. And however, we kind of believe that those young people are the strongest and most resilient young people that we have in our communities because of where they've got to, having experienced what they've experienced. And so it felt for us actually mentoring, matching a mentor to a young person and allowing that mentor to unlock the skills that young person has, the strengths that young person has, would be like a really great thing to do, and has the potential to hopefully transform someone's lives. And, and we consistently see that across the program, and there's probably no better example of that than the work that Darren and Cole have done together. And it is together, it's a partnership. We very much encourage that partnership approach from the two, and we like to think that our mentors also gain a lot from the relationship that they build with that young person.
And what's your role at Volunteering Matters as well?
Good question. Everything. Currently I'm Director for Impact and Business Development, but for the last 4 years I've been heading up our work in Ipswich in the east. And we have a big centre in the centre of Ipswich on Civic Drive there, and we had run this programme in 2 London boroughs for some time, and I was really keen that it came to Ipswich because it was an area that, obviously I'm an Ipswich lad, it was an area of the world that I know, and I know the school system, etc., very well, and the agencies, etc. So we were really keen for it to come, and the reason I should just probably mention that one of our key beliefs was that, and why my colleague at the time, Dion, was at the breakfasts with Darren, was we were really adamant that the private sector needed to play a much bigger role in the shaping of young people's futures in our town, and people who had experience of coaching in their professional corporate lives, if they could apply that to young people in this position, that would be a great thing to do. And often when we speak about our community, we often forget the private sector's role and the skills that it has and the potential that it has to play a massive role in the young people. So at that time, we were almost solely recruiting people from Chamber of Commerce types events or business breakfasts, because we were really interested in unlocking all the skills that sat in that group of people and bringing that community together with our care experienced young people. And it wasn't really something that anyone else was doing at that time.
Did you find it a challenge to get Grand Mentors in terms of sort of recruiting volunteers to this program?
No, and one of the reasons, that's a really interesting question, because in some ways it was much easier to have this conversation with SMEs and entrepreneurs than it would be than people that are in the field that I work in, because people got the coaching concept very easily. That it's something that they might apply to a member of staff or a young apprentice, for example. But also it was hardwired into a lot of the people we were talking to, that they could see impact as it was happening. I always remember, I don't know if Darren remembers this, but I always remember really clearly Darren knocking on my door one day and saying, look, I've just walked through town with Cole, and Cole has walked into Debenhams. He's taken his hoodie down for the first time and he's bought himself an alarm clock, which to a lot of people in the field seems a really small thing. And often people in our field don't talk about that kind of impact. But because Darren's mind was wired to think about, actually, I need to see the changes that I'm making and reflect on them and be openly talking about them, he was coming to me and telling me that, which was fantastic. So that culture from that group of people, particularly around that Chamber of Commerce events and business community, felt like a really, once we could clearly articulate what we wanted them to do, it became a really easy sell actually to that group. And certainly our first wave of mentors were all from kind of private sector businesses. Now, of course, it's a much wider group and much more reflective of the community as a whole, as it should be. But we really wanted to set the train running on the track using that approach.
That sounds really, really good. And now I'm going to turn the spotlight on Cole a little bit. So Cole, I know you've been on everything from the One Show to Sky News, and I know you're hitting the big time now, coming on Careers and Coffee. But don't laugh. But can you give us a flavour of, what is a care leaver? Because I know a lot of people may be watching and thinking, okay, what does that actually mean? And give us a flavour of sort of your life before you started this project.
Okay, so a care leaver is someone that has been either within a CRC, which is a Children's Resource Centre, foster care, adoption. It could even be something up to a short amount of care, like 6 months. It all depends on certain sections and stuff. And it's It's when you leave that process around 16 to 18 that you then become a care leaver. And you're then given like a YPA, which is a young person's advisor.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a social worker, but with more ease in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And go on.
No, I was just going to say, and in terms of your life during that period, how was that in terms of being a care leaver at that time?
It was very up and down. There was ups and downs. There was a lot of people coming in and out. There was a lot of change. It was majority negative. I can't, if I'm honest. It wasn't great. It structured me into quite a severe introvert. So it wasn't good at all.
So I suppose sort of those years ago, you wouldn't have then even considered going on, say, like The One Show or Sky News or doing a program like this or anything like that?
No, never. I mean, like Stephen and Darren were saying about when we met at the coffee morning at the info bar, I vividly remember I was sat in the corner of the room away from everyone with my hood up and my hair literally down to my shoulders. It was dreadful. It really was. But I'm so thankful for this project. It's brilliant.
So how did you hear about the project? And then how was it sort of first going into the program and maybe your first encounter with Darren?
Well, I heard about it through my old YPA, Charlotte, and she had told me, we're having this coffee morning, and there's going to be people there that are potentially offering a mentor. Are you interested? I was like, I'm not really too sure, but I'll come down and test the waters, kind of thing. Yeah. So I went down there, and then I sat in the corner with my head up, and then Charlotte pointed me over to Dion. So I she said, "Could I go have a chat with her?" So I went over to Dion, had a chat with her for about half an hour. And after about half an hour, she's like, "Well, would you like to potentially become a mentee?" And I was like, yeah. It'd be quite nice to try and transform my life a little bit. So yeah, she then asked me a few things about what I like and stuff. So I then mentioned cars, planes, and all the kind of mechanics side of things. And then she then mentioned that Darren is a fan of cars as well. So that had already been a common ground before we'd even met. So that made it a lot easier to break the ice and kind of conversate and get to know him.
And I think that's great life advice. And the amount of networking events that I go to or anyone else on this call have been to, but trying to find something that you can both relate to, whether it be, okay, in this case, maybe you volunteer for the same organisation or you work in the same sector. I think that really helps. And also, you mentioned Dion. I know who Dion is. We all do. But for those watching, they may not know. So who's Dion and how did she help?
Okay, so Dion is can't remember the specific role, like the actual name of the role, but she was the like a head of the Grand Mentoring Scheme.
Okay. So
she had it all organised and had it run through and stuff. And she was kind of like I don't know, like a referee for me and Darren. Like, so at first she was like organising the meets and stuff like that. Seeing if we were available, kind of thing. And yeah, I don't really know how to word it a little bit, but yeah, it's just kind of that.
That's brilliant.
Jordan, you seem to say Dion was a project manager for the project, but it's interesting just at this point to say that we placed quite a lot of emphasis on changing the way that we matched mentors with young people at that time. And so we were really keen, and this was Dion's innovation, really, we were really keen to not create kind of an artificial way of matching young people. So, we know quite a bit about the young people from the social work team. We know obviously about our mentees because we've recruited them, trained them, etc. But then, not getting them to just go off and have a coffee and hope that it works out for the best. So we came up with this soft matching idea. I don't know if you guys will remember this, but essentially we coalesce a load of potential young people with mentors together around an activity. And I think in your case it was a bake-off and the selling of the cakes in Endeavour House.
Yeah.
But we've done a whole heap of different ones, circus events and Lego building and all the rest of it. And the whole point of doing that actually is that the conversation between the mentor and the mentee starts off as a problem-solving one, and is not born around, well, tell me about yourself and your life and all the rest of it. Is actually, okay, immediately we're just focusing on what it is we need to do here. And then at the end, the young person gets some autonomy around choosing their mentor and kind of making a decision as to why, really. And Cole and Darren were one of the first matches that went through that.
That's fantastic. And I'm just going to switch to, so we've got a question in. So, hi Cole, can you describe how you've benefited from the mentor program?
Okay, so I've benefited an extreme amount. So if we go back a little bit, if we go back to about maybe 3.5 years ago, I had severe anxiety. I was living in the YMCA at the time, which is a supported living. And there was a canteen there, and I couldn't even eat in front of 3 people, let alone walk into the canteen while people were in there. And there was a lot of other stuff that correlated with it, and it was severe. I had severe social anxiety and anxiety in general. There wasn't much self-care, hygiene was low, self-esteem, confidence, everything was at rock bottom. And then throughout it, as we progressed throughout the relationship and the mentee and mentor program, we've come a massive milestep. I can literally go out and do and face whatever I want. I can openly ask questions. I'm more than open to talk about my past and all the negatives and the positives. It's really hard to describe how beneficial this program is. I think
that's brilliant. I suppose a question to both you and Darren. Now, I've done mentoring and I've mentored students and young people. And I think when you are mentoring anybody, there can come times during that process where it can be challenging on both of you. Have you had that scenario, and how do you overcome that? Because there'll be people watching who think, actually, I want to be a mentor, or I want to be mentored. How do you overcome maybe some of those initial sort of challenges? And I'll throw that to Darren to begin with.
Okay, so I think me and Cole would be lying if we said it was all up and up. It was a rocky road for sure. It was up 2 steps, down 3 steps at certain times. And, Cole, unfortunately, at the time was mixing with the wrong sort of people. He was staying up all night, doing gaming and stuff. And he wasn't doing the right things, and he was being misled by other people. And so he was trying his best, but until we got on top of that, we couldn't actually sort out anything else that was going on in his life. And every now and again, he would have a bit of a blip. And that's down to me. What do I do? Do I abandon him, or do I sort of stand by his side? The most important thing, though, that Cole would probably recognise as well is he knew that he had messed up. He would hold his hands up. And it was down to me also to try and reinforce that, to get him to admit that he messed up. And if he kept messing up, he could actually lose me, and I could no longer be his mentor. So it was a case of a little bit of sort of gamesmanship, if you like, but in a nice way, to try and encourage him that you learn lessons in life, and from those lessons, you've got to become a bigger person. And I think that's what Cole's done all the way along. I think he's made a few mistakes. And he recognises it, and then he just he steps forward and becomes a better person for it, and that's what I'd say.
That's really good. And Cole, would you sort of agree with what Darren said there? Maybe not always been sunshine and rainbows.
100%. There's been days where the sunshine and rainbow has completely dissipated, and we're now in the middle of a tornado. But it like Darren says, it's about acceptance. It's about realizing that you've done wrong, and then once you realize it and accept it, you can then try to understand it, and then you can push forward and not make that mistake again.
A good phrase is, everyone needs sunshine, everyone needs rain, and everyone's carrying around some sort of pain. And it's trying to understand what's going through this person when they make these errors. And if you can do that, and if you can become on their wavelength and become a good listener, then that's good. I mean, there's a question there saying, do we receive training and support? When we first started, yes, there's certain training programs that we go on that helps us to understand the processes involved, because ultimately, as a mentor, we are responsible for the well-being of the mentee. And if we see something that's going on that shouldn't be going on, even though we've confided in each other, we have an ultimate responsibility back to the charity, to Volunteering Matters, to let them know what is going on, because the safeguarding and other issues that we need to make sure come into effect. So that's very, very important. And then after that, it's just really having your common sense, wisdom, knowledge, and experience, and sort of interpreting them into the young person's world.
Nice.
Yeah, what sort of a linked point to what your question, Jordan, and then the question that was on the screen. So there was also a real value in that Cole became increasingly involved in the wider volunteering matters work. So he volunteered for us in a number of different projects, doing a number of different things. And what that meant was he had a number of different touch points with us as an organisation. So, there were blips, and that's absolutely fine because we expect that to happen. But there were times, where we were able to kind of get him some emergency support when he required it, because, there was a variety of kind of contact points that we could make with him, all the while knowing that the primary contact was Darren. But whilst Darren was on a holiday, for example, that something might arise whilst he was out of the country, actually Cole had other points of contact with, Dion, with myself, and others where we were able to get involved. And the training and support is key, yes, as Darren mentioned. In terms of the support, peer support between the mentors is also quite important. So, Darren's become kind of a great grand mentor, if you like, for us, whereby actually he's the sort of person who can feed his skills back into other mentors, as well as young people who are always looking to build that kind of network. The support is a lot around, maintaining kind of an equilibrium, really. I know Darren, when, it was very useful for Darren when these blips were occurring to be able to have that kind of support of Dion and those conversations around what should I be doing? Should I be trying this or what have you? And that's a really important part of the ongoing process, really. So lots of training and support, it's really key. But the more we can get kind of peer support within our group of mentors, the better, really.
I think, Stephen, whilst I have you as well, I mean, how important is it that young people, and I think in particular guys like Cole, who are in care or going through it or leaving it, how important is it that they have a role model?
Well, it's huge, and it's probably bigger than just a role model, Jordan. When I think of the things that Darren has done, actually, the word mentor covers up a lot of the work that's done. It's getting Cole to communicate effectively and build his confidence, understand what his rights are. I've seen Darren fight his corner for him and understand how to advocate his rights and his situation, help him make decisions more clearly, block out, the noise that's around him. All of these things, healthy living, all of that kind of stuff. So there's so much wrapped up in that. If I give you a sense, though, for young people that leave the care system across England and Wales, 50% of those young people are going to be not in education, training and employment when they're 18, 19 and 20.
Yeah.
And a third of them are homeless within 2 years. And if you look at males under 21 that are in prison in this country, half of them are care experienced. So this is the kind of outcome we generally see for young people that have grown up in the kinds of, have been in the system, I guess, that Cole has been in. And for us as an organisation, we see kind of those not in education, training, employment figures drop quite sharply to about 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
So that's the impact of someone like Darren as a mentor, which is quite a simple concept, really. But that key intervention at that time of someone's time and their gift of their wisdom at that point makes such a difference to that young person's life. And ultimately, it's got to be about the young person, taking that and then running with it, and then they don't look back. They don't need the support anymore because actually they can just do it for themselves.
And I've said it before. I don't think it's over exaggerating to say this program is life changing for the young people, but I think also for the mentors who are going through it as well. I just want to bring it back to Darren and Cole. So we've talked about maybe some of the challenges that you've had in terms of the mentoring program. But tell me about some of the real highlights of being through this mentoring program, because I've definitely seen it in terms of the work that's been going on, but I want to hear it from you guys. So, Cole, do you want to kick off?
Yeah. Okay. Where to start? So we've had some really like positive moments, really big, quite highlighted moments. You know, for instance, this year I was Young Person of the Year award. I won that, which is great, and I can 100% say I would have not even come close to even being nominated for that if it wasn't for being through Grand Mentors. You know, we've been on Sky News, live interview there. We've also been on the BBC One show, which was about the Grand Mentoring scheme as well. We've been on Suffolk Radio a few times. You know, we attended the National Mentoring Awards in Chelsea, in London, and I think we won. Yeah, we did win. We won, but I think was it the private sector? Is that correct?
For the third sector, yeah. So for all the charities, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we attended that as well, which was an awesome night and evening. And yeah, there's been a lot of other stuff. You know.
And what job are you doing, Cole, now?
Oh yeah. Now I'm currently doing a level 2 BTEC diploma in business administration for Suffolk County Council.
I was going to say, I recognise the meeting room at Endeavour House. I've spent too many time in those meetings. So that is, I mean, that's fantastic. To go from the situation that you described around being anxious and, and then going through the One show and Sky News and all sorts of different things, being on the radio, to now be on an apprenticeship working with Suffolk County Council, that's amazing. I've seen a question pop up. So, what skills are you learning as an apprentice, and what are the benefits of being an apprentice as well?
Okay. So the skills I'm learning as an apprentice, I'm learning technological skills. I've always been a bit of a technophobe. So the fact I'm doing mostly a digital apprenticeship is awesome because it's really stretching not just my learning, but my comfort zone around it as well. Benefit of being an apprentice is just awesome. It's apprenticeships are brilliant. Like the factor that you can learn, work, and earn money all at the same time is so beneficial for people that left school with no grades or are worried about not being able to get a job or something. You know, in an apprenticeship, that doesn't really come into a factor if you've got grades or not. You know, because you can learn them alongside it.
I was just going to say, was it a big step taking on that role and being in an environment like Suffolk County? I've worked at Suffolk County Council, and it can feel massively daunting. You're in this fancy glass building. There's loads of people. That must have been incredibly daunting on your first day, no?
100%. I remember the day I remember coming up to the interview when they told me about it. You know, just going out and just coming to the interview alone was extremely daunting. You know, it wasn't large. There was only 3 people within the interview, I think, and even though you walk in and you're just like, oh, I'm in a room with these people I don't know, and I've got to answer these questions and pray that I've answered them correctly. And then once the interview had finished, I'd woken up the next day and they offered me the placement at 9 in the morning, which was really nice. So it's lovely to hear that. And then when we when I went, it was on a Tuesday, I can't remember what date, but they shooed me around the office. And I remember the first time walking through that office with my line manager, and I was so scared. You know, my shoulders, my back was stiff, my muscles just tensed up. You know, I just walk around looking around like, I can't believe this is happening. I can 1,000,000% say I'd never ever thought to see myself in the position I am right now.
No, I think that's amazing. And I know that you also did some work experience at a particular car brand that Darren is fond of. I think Peugeot, isn't it? So do you think doing the work experience previously helped gain some of those skills that you needed or that you need currently in the workplace as well?
100%. Any form of, well, that work experience specifically was good because it was at Audi Engineering, and I was shadowing the fast technician, and in their mechanics bay, it's really big. I think they hold like nearly 15 spaces or something. So there's quite a large amount of people all there at once, and you're seeing what everyone is doing, but you've also got to maintain focus. And that concept is quite similar to an office, because again, it's quite a large space. There's loads of people. They're all doing their own thing, and you've got to maintain focus whilst all this is on. You've got to use So it definitely 100% helps massively.
Brilliant. And so, Darren, you obviously set that up for Cole, the work experience at Anglia Engineering. I mean, is it fair to say that you just went above and beyond with, I suppose, opening some doors for Cole during this process as well?
I think it's all about going the extra mile, no matter what walk of life you're in. I've just written a few things down as Cole was talking, and getting his hair cut was a massive achievement for me. Persuading him to actually get his hair cut, but even before that, to take his hoodie down, to make sure he had a shower every day. When he told me he could actually use a cooker, these are little things to most people, but even when he finally got off the medication that he was on, I mean, there's lots of different things in his life that he's accomplished that you easily pick up the big things, but there are some little things too. But going back to your point, I think you've got to go the extra mile really to make sure that, and you've got to be prepared to give and take, and prepare yourself for things that not always going to work to plan. And I think that's what me and Cole did. I mean, I always use the analogy that I gave him a fishing rod, a manual and some bait. He read the manual and went out there and caught the fish. And that's very important. You've not got to do it all for them, but you've got to use your experience and let them see that you've done it, and gain some inspiration from it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant advice. Sorry, go on, Steve.
I was just going to say on that. I mean, all this is great to hear. I guess it's the what I was saying earlier about getting people to recognise the impact that they're having with a young person as they move along. I mean, Darren has just outlined it there. Some people would not pick up on that stuff. So to have a mentor is actually saying, who can see, well, I'm making this difference because that we've had a haircut, we're doing some personal hygiene, which the way that Cole's starting to dress is changing. All these little things are huge things actually for Cole at that time. Having a mentor recognizing that as you go through is priceless really, because if you'd have said to Cole at the start, you're going to be working here, then it would, that's quite a hard thing to attain at that time. But going through those little steps was such a crucial part of it. And if you think about the optics of Cole going to the building that he's in now, and the info bar to get help and support because he's in some form of crisis, and now he walks in there as an employee, I mean, that's extraordinary. But it's all the little things that Darren just outlined that made that happen. And therefore, the mentee's ability to recognise that as they're going through, that there is progression in those areas is absolutely crucial. And this is the other thing about having a mentor, that a mentor does use their contacts to enable things to happen with people that they know in their local community, because it is about the community or the village raising the child, if you like.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I've just seen a question come up. So for a young person listening today who would like to access mentoring, or those who would perhaps like to become a mentor, what would you suggest they do? So, open question. Whoever wants to go for it first.
If they spoke to me for 5 minutes, they'd have no doubt that they needed to do it. Simple as that, because I'm as positive as you can get.
There we go. Speak to Darren. You've heard it here first, folks. There we go. Stephen, Cole, what's your thoughts?
Well, they can contact me, Jordan. I'm on Twitter and my email address and what have you. If they want to become a mentor, that's fantastic. We do now do wider mentoring, so we don't just do mentoring for young people that are care experienced. Ipswich Borough Council fund us to do mentoring on a wider basis. So if they're a young person that feels that they can benefit from that, then again, please get in touch with me. Normally, they could walk into our building. They can't do that at the moment, of course. But if they wanted to email me, we'd be more than happy to kind of try and set that up.
Fantastic.
And I would have pretty much suggested the same thing as Darren or Stephen. Go to these guys because they will 100% hook you up. You will be, you will become a brilliant mentor. So
good. That's great advice from all three of you. And I think just to sort of tack that on, for young people who are volunteering, I volunteer my time with a school governor in Ipswich, and I get a lot of skills out of that, but then I can also bring a lot of skills to it. I suppose a question for all of you: is this something, volunteering for young people? Is that something they can use on their CVs for going for a job interview, anything like that? Would you recommend that?
Without a doubt, 1,000,000%. Get as much work experience as you can, literally, because it's going to take you so far. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, and rather than a line on a CV, Jordan, it's about what the volunteering is doing for you. So, businesses tell us all of the time, actually, it's not so much about the grades, it's about your ability to hold relationships. And that's the thing that they often struggle with, young people's ability to hold relationships. So if you can show through your volunteering that you're building your relationship skills and you're working with really different groups of people, then employers are telling us that's something crucially that they're looking for as much as a grade on a piece of paper.
I think everyone, Jordan, needs a mentor in life, and the earlier you can get a mentor, the bigger advantage it's going to be to you as a person. And if Cole was to get a mentor at 19 versus somebody who doesn't get one until they're 30, it doesn't matter too much about their education, because you can gain so much life experience off of a mentor. And I think anyone can have a mentor, no matter what age. I mentor managing directors. I mentor young kids in academies in Ipswich, as well as kids in care. So at the end of the day, everyone can benefit from a mentor. It's never too late to do that.
Yeah. And Darren, whilst I've got you, I think with mentoring programs, a lot of the emphasis is, no doubt, on the mentee and what they got out of it. As a mentor, what have you got out of this program?
Well, to be honest, I went through a phase in my life where I went into the military to start with, in the Royal Air Force for 7 years. And then I joined a company at the bottom and worked my way up to the top, and ended up evolving a £400 million business before I left to become a mentor and volunteer my time. I just wanted to complete and give something back to society, because a lot of people helped me get to where I was and achieve the things that I achieved, because life is about teamwork. Life is about working together and helping each other. And I just thought that it was time that I gave back. So for me, it gives me great satisfaction every time I talk to anybody, be it on the Volunteering Matters programme, be it in the schools where I'm an academy advisor, or even if it's on Instagram, private message where someone contacts me and I happen to give them some advice and they turn around and go, wow, that's fantastic. It sort of gives me great satisfaction that I'm making a difference to somebody else's life. And the more people that I can help, the better I feel. And that's all I can say.
Brilliant. And whilst I have you, I couldn't have Darren on and not talk about his book, which is right behind me. So Darren, you have wrote this book. I've read this book. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think me reading it, I think there's a lot in there. Obviously, it's focused on your life, your experiences, and sharing that to, I suppose, other people who aspire to be in leadership positions. Is that fair? And you sort of giving top tips.
Yeah, well, I'll just remind you of what you said about the book, Jordan. You said if you're in business and want to take that leap to the next level, you need to read this book and hear about what it takes to be successful from a man who is. They were your words, but people have also said kindly, it's the best business book they've ever read. It's an orchestrated masterpiece. If you only read one book this year, make sure it's this book. So the reviews are fantastic. Why did I write it? I wrote it because I believe that with hard work and determination, anything's possible. If I can do it, why can't you? And what it does, it takes you through your business journey, really. It starts at the beginning, inspires people throughout, and has an happy ending, like most good stories. And it talks about going the extra mile, finding your identity, bouncing back, a bit about time management, planning and preparation, how to handle pressure, all these things that you will handle in business. Bouncing back is quite important at the moment with the COVID-19, because a lot of people are going to find themselves in difficult situations. I'm giving my book away these days free of charge by a digital link, as well as selling it on Amazon. So if anyone wants to read my inspirational book, I originally just thought I'd do it for inspiration for young people. But in fact, some of these guys that have made these comments are managing directors So it's quite important that I sort of, try and spread the word really. And a lot of people have said it's inspiring and it's life changing. So all I can say to people is give it a read. I can send you the link free if you contact me, and that's as good a plug as I can give.
Happy days. I had to work that in. I couldn't not. And yeah, no, I've read it and I've came away from that. I think as well during lockdown and COVID-19, there's a lot on there about how do you remain productive and manage your time, which I think, if you perhaps you've not worked from home before, and also, I suppose it's not working from home, it's trying to work from home during a pandemic. And I think that's the difference. It's not just a Friday catching up on admin from home. About how to manage your time, how to make sure you are still being productive. I think that's quite interesting. So I want to. We're going to push. Okay, so how has everyday work stroke volunteering changed with COVID-19 for everyone? Include me.
I should probably take that. I think so. Obviously, face-to-face contact has been kind of gone out of the window, really. So there's a number of things that have happened. On the one hand, for us as an organisation, with some of our mentoring models, what we've done is made sure that that's moved online, and we've got the secure platforms to be able to do that. Because actually, the group of young people that we're working with are isolated to begin with. They're incredibly isolated now. So that's a very practical thing that's happened. And of course, we're really concerned about how young people will re-emerge from this situation. And of course, they're likely to be the first people to re-emerge in society. So that's interesting. Obviously, there's been a lot of great kind of mutual aid volunteering that's sprung up, kind of neighbourhood schemes, neighbourly schemes that are happening, which are fantastic, although they are also fraught with challenges and behaviours because they're not got necessarily the same structures around them as formal volunteering has. And of course, that's as should be. They shouldn't, but also there are dangers about who might be involved and what that might look like. So they're the kind of two ends of the spectrum. And then, of course, in terms of the charitable sector, social enterprise sector, there's been a huge hit around funding. About 4.2 billion is the estimate that the sector has lost. So that's a big hit. And the sector is so broad that that's going to have quite a bit of impact. What we are seeing, though, is volunteering is coming back into the centre ground of governmental understanding in terms of how important it is, particularly in times of crisis. That there's been an army of volunteers across the UK that have helped us get through COVID-19, and so notwithstanding the challenges around safety, as a wider concept, volunteering is seen as a really crucial thing at the moment. And feeds into why actually it's a good thing to put on your CV right now.
No, that's brilliant. And chaps, what about yourselves?
Cool. Okay. So myself, well, I'm fortunate enough, as I told you, I retired from my business life about 7 years ago. So I'm fortunate enough to have a good garden, if you like, and I can do what I do around the house as well as inspiring people. The only difference is you can't get out and about like you used to. So it's pretty much business as usual for me. I'm just trying to inspire as many people as I can.
And Cole, what about yourself?
It's been I can't lie, I've struggled a little bit with the whole isolation side of things. As I'm in a house share, I live on my own. I'm not from around these ways, so I don't have actual family up here. So yeah, there is a slight struggle, but I'm progressing. I'm getting through that. Keeping myself occupied, keeping my hobbies on top and stuff. And for the work side of things, it's changed quite a bit because I usually handle like a work experience application or something like that. And obviously due to the COVID-19, there's none of that. So my work role was changed up a little bit, and I'm just now honing in skills on like my maths and my college stuff. So yeah, and that's good.
I was just going to say, I think it sounds like you're all sort of keeping sane in that case, and likewise my end as well. I suppose just sort of now, 40 odd minutes in, I'm keen to sort of wrap up and ask just a couple more questions of you all. But I think the first one goes to Cole. Do you think it's ever too late to, I suppose, sort of turn your life around?
No. Never. If you want to change your life around, you need to want it. You can't want the idea of it. You need to want it to happen. Do you know what I mean? And once you actually want it, then you can make a start. Because it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, you could be 60 years old, and if you want to change something in your life, why can't you do it? What is literally stopping you? Provided you have a brilliant support system like I have, then you can literally amount to anything and achieve anything.
Well, I feel inspired right now. And a question to all of you. One last question. So, obviously, there's a lot of young people who are about to embark upon their next pathway, which they would be doing anyway, minus COVID-19, and that is wrought with a lot of anxiety, excitement, and fear for a lot of students. So, whether you're 16, progressing on to higher further education, or higher education at 18, etc. And that's already really challenging. But having COVID-19 lumped on top is even more daunting. What would be your advice to those young people who are about to go and take their next direction and who are maybe feeling a little bit uncertain about that? So to kick off with Darren, yeah.
Okay, well, I would say ultimately try and remain positive. Everything seems impossible until you've accomplished it. Don't take life for granted. Live every day. Make sure you plan, and make sure you ask yourself questions like, what if? What if I got up a little bit earlier? What if I did this today? What if I planned for the future? Make it matter. Make every day matter. Focus on yourself, but help others while you can, and be kind. But ultimately, life is about living out your dreams, but life is about making memories, and life is about achieving things. But you can be successful. Everyone can be successful, but never worry about changing the satellite navigation system within your body. So if you set the coordinates to get to your destination, along the way, you're going to come up against some dead ends, some dodgy roads, and you're going to have to reset those coordinates. Don't worry, it's all part of learning. There's no problems in this world, only solutions. So if you come up against a roadblock or a barrier, find a way around it and just talk to other people. Don't do it alone. You're not alone. There's a support network everywhere you look, and become the conductor of your own orchestra. Use all those people around you to help you as part of your own team to ultimately get to your destination.
Sounds nice. Stephen, let's go to you. Try and top that.
So I think it's a case of controlling the things that you can control, and deciding what they are, and don't be defined by anyone else's success, because it's your own decision around what your success looks like and is. And once you've got that into your mind, then actually the rest of life is about learning. You know, you should be learning until the day we leave. And, you know, we very rarely become the finished article. And so it's absolutely fine to feel that you're not, because actually, I'm still learning, Darren, we're all still learning, and we should still be learning. And so that's absolutely fine. But decide what you think your own success should be as you move through life, and just control the things that you think you can control, because there's a whole heap of stuff you can't influence.
And one thing, can I just
be kind?
Yeah.
And be kind would be my last thing.
One thing I'd just say that me and Cole talked about a lot, and that was to eradicate negative people from your life, to move forward and be positive. The negative people will really impact negatively on your life, and that's really important you do that. So if you're on social media and someone's not very nice to you, delete them. You don't need them around you. And just make sure you communicate face-to-face with people.
Good. That's good advice, Darren. Cole, I'm going to pose this question to you, and then we'll wrap up for this afternoon. So what would you say to someone who wants to change but is scared to take the first step, and bracket really scared?
Okay, what I would say is, please do not stress it. It seems so daunting, but it's honestly I can promise you, hand on my heart, it's going to be the best thing you do. And you don't have to take the first initial step. Well, why not take baby steps? Make each little tiny difference towards it. All of these build up to that first step. And then by the time you've hit that first step, you've actually taken 30 or 40 steps. They've just been smaller than your first step. You've got nothing to be scared about. Changing is so good for you, honestly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, folks, I think I'm going to draw it to a close there. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak to all of you, to learn a little bit more about mentoring. I will plug it, don't worry. To talk a little bit more about mentoring, both Cole's and Darren's experience going on the Grand Mentor project through Volunteering Matters, where Stephen heads that up. So just a huge thank you, folks. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think a lot of people, regardless of young or indifferent, will get so much out of this. So yeah, keep on smiling. And yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with you all in person one day soon. So thanks for your time.
Thanks for the time, Jordan. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks. So I think I was absolutely bowled away by just how inspiring all of our guests were today, to learn about the journey that both Cole and Darren had been through for a fantastic mentoring project through Volunteering Matters, and to hear about the change that Cole has went through. So yeah, absolute huge thank you. And obviously I cannot not go without plugging Darren's book, which there is a link in the description below that lists Darren's book on Amazon. I'm sure when it's back to normal, he'll also be able to send you a signed copy. So yeah, check out Darren's book. Also in the link below, we have our, we've got a survey. It takes like 30 seconds. I know, a survey during lockdown, nightmare, but please go and check it out. It helps us make more informed decisions about the content that you want to see on our YouTube channel. Also, there's links below about all of our guests that were on today. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we have on another trio of guests, actually, from the University of Suffolk, talking about higher education, careers advice, and apprenticeships as well. So don't forget to see that one next Tuesday. So thank you so much. Hope you have an awesome bank holiday weekend, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks.